So you've come up with a great research question, and now comes the part where you have to try and answer it.
Well, how do you answer it? That's where methodology comes in.
Simply put, your methodology is a plan for answering your research question. It includes your methods, which are the specific actions that allow you to answer the question, and your reasons for using those methods.
The ultimate goal is to choose a methodology or group of methodologies that provides a satisfactory answer to your question.
Let's look at 3 researchers and see how they chose their methodology.
Alex is part of an ecology lab that studies how microbes in soil affect plant growth and diversity.
Her group is deciding between 2 methodologies. They could either look at how soil microbes affect plants in a real grassland, or they could run the experiment in a controlled environment, like a greenhouse.
The advantage of doing the experiment in a real grassland is that you're studying the plants in their natural environment.
On the other hand, doing a greenhouse experiment means that your results won't be affected by other variables, like weather.
Alex's lab group decides to go with a greenhouse experiment because it will isolate the plants from other environmental factors, allowing them to focus on the effects of soil microbes.
Now that they've chosen their methodology, they can begin planning their specific methods, like how they'll treat the soil and how often they'll measure the plants.
Carlos is writing a research paper about Franz Kafka's short stories.
He can take a historical approach to his research. This methodology involves analyzing biographical materials and primary sources from Kafka's historical time and place.
This approach has the advantage of understanding the short stories in the context of the social, cultural, and political environment that produced them.
Instead of the historical approach, Carlos could choose to take a theoretical approach that applies a specific theoretical lens to the work.
Potential theoretical lenses may include eco-criticism, which views the stories in the context of environmental issues and nature, or feminist theory, which views them in terms of questions of gender and power.
Using a theoretical framework would connect Carlos's research to contemporary critics and allow him to focus on very specific aspects of Kafka's work.
Carlos decides to go with a second methodology and analyze the short stories using a theoretical lens.
His next steps will be to decide which stories he will examine and which theoretical lens he will use.
Ming, a social science researcher, is doing an independent study on how marriage traditions in China have changed over the past century.
She comes up with 3 potential methodologies. She could either interview Chinese people about their views on marriage, administer a survey to Chinese people about marriage, or look at historical sources that discuss marriage in China.
Ming decides to combine the interview methodology with the historical source methodology. This will allow her to frame the personal narratives from the interviews in the context of historical events.
Having decided her methodology, Min begins to plan her specific methods. She determines what interview questions she'll ask, who she'll interview, and what specific sources she'll use.
You've seen several different examples of methodologies. Now it's time to come up with your own.
As you have seen, every methodology has its pros and cons, so don't stress out about making it perfect. It helps to discuss your methodologies with your research mentor.
Be open to refining your methodology throughout the research process.
Have fun!